My name is Katherine Kallergis. I'm with The Real Deal. Today we're talking about hospitality. We have Marc Roberts and Robert Rivani with us. So Miami has obviously benefited a lot, during the pandemic. The hospitality market boomed. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened for each of you with your business and how you made some shifts? Robert.
Yes.
You pivoted a bit during the pandemic. You were a shopping center developer, and now you're buying a lot of high-end restaurant condos. Can you tell us a little bit about what went into that decision?
Yeah, what went into that decision during COVID was shopping centers were no longer exciting because not only did you have Amazon whooping my butt, but you also had COVID whooping my butt. And what I decided at that point was I said, what's the one thing that VR, Amazon, and everything else can affect? And as human beings, we like to party, drink, go out, have fun, and have a personal experience. So hospitality for me, not competing with the greatest of the guys over here in one way, but adding value to what they were doing and making Miami an amazing city of hospitality because the government, local municipalities backed people having the choice versus me coming from LA where you couldn't eat across a table from your wife without having a mask on and being muzzled like a dog the entire time. Miami was the right place to be. So I said, okay, the one thing that Miami was missing was an international hotspot of hospitality for people to be excited about, come to, and that's why I found my niche of hospitality by buying, Brickell Bay Boardwalk and bringing Delilah to a bunch of different slew of restaurants that we brought into the city from Gecko and what we announced today, which is a really exciting piece at the Continuum, which is Cash from New York. So, yes, round of applause for Cash. It's very, very exciting. So it was bringing all these different brands that I thought Miami was missing to make it that international hotspot. So that's where I thought, my focus should be because I didn't want to compete with the big developers that are building high-rises or apartments or.
Marc, you don't want to compete with Marc.
I don't. People always ask me, do you compete with Marc? Do you compete with, other big hospitality brands? I think we add benefit to each other, right? Because a Cash customer that comes to me ends at 10, 11 o'clock. They're coming to you after, or I'm coming to you after for good or for bad. So it's a complement to each other. I don't think it's going against each other per se.
So Marc, can you tell, for anybody who may not know, which may not be anyone, but a little bit about what happened during the pandemic? You guys launched 11 hotel and residences. What was the response like?
It turns out that 11, first off, COVID was the best friend to Miami. And COVID was definitely a best friend for 11 in many respects, especially launching the towers. At first, you're a little nervous because at the beginning of COVID, obviously everybody's nervous what's going to happen, what's going on, where's it going to start, where's it going to end. And then we launched, and it was a suspenseful period, but then because of COVID, everybody realized how amazing Miami was. Miami picked up steam like you never saw, and when we launched, the out-of-towners that came and wanted to be part of the 11 experience, which 11 is really a unique nightlife experience. 11 is more about living your life, positive, having fun, having success. It's about really being a capitalist. I think that's really what Miami has really become now, capitalistic capital of the world. So we had a lot of success in people coming from New York, Chicago, LA, the major cities, Boston, tri-state area, and even some overseas people. And it was refreshing for them to see, A, that we were putting up a development first-class finishes, first-class amenities. We're building a tower that's going to be like a Las Vegas 5-star casino right in the middle of downtown, but without the casino. And these days in Vegas, the casino's an afterthought. It's all about the experience. So after the word of mouth got out what we were doing, and we showed everybody what we were doing, and they saw what we were doing, it just, like lightning in a bottle, we sold about a little over $1 billion of condos between the two towers in about 10 months.
If you were to launch that today, do you think you would get that kind of response?
Well, we're a little bit of a different environment. I think that we would sell more than anybody else would sell. I personally sold over 300 units myself. I'm confident we would do very well, but not as well as we did in that. It's a whole different world right now.
Right. we've heard a lot about the recession, obviously rising rates and everything like that. Major correction coming. That's what Jeff Green said. How do each of you fare, in the recession?
Well, we're positioned well because we own the land. My partner, Michael Simpkins, and I actually own the land we're building on, and we own it with no mortgage. So that makes all the difference in the world. In '08, I wasn't so fortunate, so I learned a lot of lessons. But this go around, we have no debt. If you have no debt, you're in good shape. People with debt and their leverage, they're going to run into some troubles because the capital markets are closed. Very difficult to get any loan at all, and if you do, you're going to really pay for that loan. And very few people could withstand that kind of pressure.
What about you, Robert?
I personally love recessions because when recessions happen, opportunities happen. And I'm an opportunistic buyer, and I like to make money on, unfortunately, other people that have over-leveraged or over-promised or over-hoped their investors, and I hope they fail so I can pick up things pennies on the dollar. So I love the recession. I mean, for me, a recession is a good thing because if the market's hot and everybody thinks they're God's gift to earth of a real estate developer or an investor, everyone's buying up prices. When people over-leveraged, over-promise, over-hope, they end up failing during 2008, 2009, and I pick it up 30, 40 cents on the dollar, and I love recessions. The key is, are you prepared for the recession? Because a lot of people go into recessions not being prepared. So for me, I fixed all my debt in the 3s and the 4s, so I'm not running a risk. I prepare for having cash on the side via lines of credit, so I can buy things whenever they come pennies on the dollar. People that don't prepare and just hope for the best and pray for it, I think they're ultimately going to lose, and the people that overpaid will ultimately lose. So for me personally, it doesn't really bother me. I'm excited for it.
What about your tenants? Is that a concern for you, or?
For the business that I'm in, and then for the tenants that I have, at least in South Florida, recessions don't really apply to people that are paying for $1,000 gold steaks or $200 sashimi dishes or stuff like that. People come here for experience, for fun, enjoyment, and they'll probably spend more lavishly going out than on their day-to-day home rental or the day-to-day car payment and stuff like that. People actually want to enjoy their lives and are willing to spend for that more than what they do in their day-to-day lives. That's what we benefit off of. So no, I'm not too worried about that. Especially, and I take this fact, when you take across the board of a nation, when you see people from New York, Chicago, the Midwest, California, trying to enjoy their lives and have fun, South Florida is a place to be where they can actually spend the money, enjoy their lives. So I don't think a recession affects that because ultimately, recession or not, people want to go out, enjoy eating, partying, and having a good time, vacationing. And I don't think that changes one way or another.
What about in terms of rising rates? You said that your debt is at low interest rates. You're all set with that?
No, I think debt affects us as buyers, right? Because typically myself, and I'm sure anybody else that buys a property wants to take on debt. So if debt is now in the mid-7s when it used to be in the mid-3s, it affects your down payment. It affects your debt to service coverage ratio. It affects how much money you have to come up with cash versus how you had to do before. So yes, it affects you, but you're also buying things at 30, 40%, or you should be buying things 30, 40% from the peak. So I think if you're well prepared and you have enough cash on the side, that is what separates the good investors from people that are just trying to buy on speculation.
I also want to talk a little bit about the significance that's been put on the brand. You mentioned Gecko. We have these restaurants where Bad Bunny is a partner. Like, how important is that? What does that do for nearby businesses? What does it do for your space?
Yeah, so I think every brand, whether it's Gecko or Delilah or 11 or whoever it is, it provides synergy for a certain area. So for example, when we first launched Delilah, it was a super exciting concept. They'd come from LA, they just opened up a Wynn Hotel in Vegas, and now they just landed in Miami. So there was a lot of hype and buzz behind that. Komodo had just opened up, and Sexy Fish had opened up, and there was this brand new beautiful corner that was a former Katsuya. And while it's a great brand in itself, it doesn't draw the attention and the magnitude. So when me and Dave had come up with a concept, or he'd come up with the concept of Gecko, and he landed Bad Bunny, that took it from a great restaurant to an international iconic experience. There was, I think, 6,000 people the night of the grand opening. 6,000 people. Those 6,000 people need to eat. Those 6,000 people need to go and stay at a hotel. They need to come to the area. They need to benefit. They benefit the neighboring tenants, the neighboring community, and that becomes a space that people are like, well, the next bachelor party or the next time I travel or the next time I want to come to Miami, I want to go to Gecko because I love Bad Bunny, I love Dave, I love all the food and hospitality that's in the area, and then I can enjoy the city for more than just one thing. So I think that's the big differential between bringing hospitality and these big international icons together into one, that it changes the map of what hospitality is.
Yeah, and Marc, you've talked about how you have personally brought a lot of buyers to the project. A lot of them go to 11. Can you tell us a little bit about just how big that brand has gotten, and what you plan to do next with it?
Well, the significant part of the brand is we reach every dynamic and every vertical. We have anywhere from the buyers, where our clientele is actually the same, from 21 years old to 70 years old, from world-renowned celebrities, female and male, very, very well known, to world-renowned business people, well-respected business people, to kids we had a lot of cryptocurrency young kids. We had kids that came from wealthy families and bought. We're really all over the map, and that's the special thing about 11. The brand has been resonated with almost every genre you can think of. I mean, there's no genre that doesn't enjoy it, and no genre doesn't want to be a part of it. So the movement, where it's heading, is we will make 11th Street in the Park West area along Miami World Center the most popular area to be, not only in Miami, but the country. In Miami, all districts, all areas of Miami, they're exploding like crazy. And for the first time, you're seeing different districts and different little areas. But between the egress, the ingress, what we're doing with the 211 towers, we have 11, obviously. 11, we get 6,000 people like every night, but they're spending like crazy amounts of money. And then you have space right there. And what we're going to create is the most dynamic street for entertainment and hospitality in the world. That's our goal, and we plan on reaching our goal.
So what's next exactly? I know you plan to open a medical marijuana dispensary, right?
Yes, we were fortunate enough to have the ability to open up a dispensary in the second tower on the corner of Northeast 1st and Northeast 11th Street. There will be a dispensary. And it's going to be, like everything else we do, will be a magnificent first-class dispensary.
Have either of you, we've heard a lot about issues with permitting, delays that can cause for restaurants and other tenants, obviously. How has that, maybe this is a better question for you, Robert, but what is the solution to that? Are there any workarounds that you've managed to find?
Get the people from the city back on their asses and their jobs. I mean, to be honest, there's a vacation once a week on a Friday or this or that, or they just have to get back to work for good or for bad. And if they should provide a solution for people that, I think Miami is booming so much. I don't think the people that are in the city have come and said, okay, well, we're having thousands of people move in, thousands of new businesses open up, and have acclimated to that. I think that's key to, because at the end of the day, especially Miami and Florida, they make money off rental income tax. They make, I think, 6.5% off that. Between all my combined tenants, we're talking about the millions and millions of dollars of revenue that if you hired more and more people to service expediting permits, that'll just tell more people, hey, it's a city and a state that people are excited about opening businesses into and come to it. My average restaurant takes 15 months to open, to maybe 18 months. You can build a high-rise, maybe 2 years on some tenants if they're not fast with expediters, if they're not fast with architects. You can build a high-rise in 2 years. And I think it's a learning process, right? Because once upon a time, before COVID, Miami was not as hot. Miami was not as being infiltrated by so many people. So I think that adjustment needs to happen, but I think slowly but surely people are taking a lead in the city to change that.
And what about you, Marc, with 11?
Well, I'll tell you, permitting is a huge issue as far as building a high-rise or building anything. And I could feel for what Robert's saying. What the solution is, I have a lot of solutions, but I don't know if anybody's listening to them.
You have a few
tell us,
people
yeah,
listening.
tell us.
Just a tad bit of people.
What I can say is Miami as a whole, because it's exploded so quickly, is doing a fantastic job in managing the whole thing compared to other cities. When I see what's happening in other cities, they have worse permitting problems. Not that that's any consolation prize. But I think that we will be successful in with everything we need to do, and we'll have both towers up and running, 3 to 3.5 years from now. I just look at the end game, how long it's going to take me to get the whole thing built. There's a lot of things that go on in the middle and frustrations and all that, but that's a good time frame for us. And permitting is definitely an issue, and capital markets are an issue. So developers are fighting two major issues right now.
Yeah, there's construction costs, interest rates. That's all
Yeah,
affecting you guys.
all affecting everybody, yes.
Yeah. You both also mentioned opportunities in a recession. So where are you looking? Where should everybody be looking?
I can't give the secrets away. Then I'm gonna have to compete with everybody. That doesn't make any sense. But I think, look, I think everybody should focus on the markets that they know best. There's a lot of people that, for good or for bad, say, hey, Miami's on fire, and then they go and buy in a market in Miami that's not necessarily on fire, and they make mistakes. I think people should, I think no matter where you are in the United States, there's always a market that has opportunity, and where you know best is where you should invest first, because if you go into a market that you don't know the rules, the regulations, tenants, sales, this, that, the other, and you just want to invest there because you're following the crowd, I think that's a very, very big mistake.
Are there any operators you've said no to because you just don't, you think it's oversaturated or they won't do well, or?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, specifically on South Point, where we're developing, you know, what I'm calling, or I'm trying to dub myself, Restaurant Row, and we just announced, like I said earlier, Catch. There's certain restaurant brands. There used to be a dart bar concept in there, and for anybody that knows South of Fifth, nobody's really getting drunk at a dart bar and going to go shoot darts and have beers. It's not the right concept. And you know, the person that put them there wanted cash flow, and I understand that, and it's a cash flow kind of business. But if you want to bring a crowd that's from Edgewater, Brickell, North Miami Beach, Sunny Isles, Palm Beach, wherever it is, you need a couple big heavy hitters. You obviously already have Poppy Steak, you have Carbone. We just landed Catch. We're going to be announcing, hopefully very shortly, Gaia, which is based, who Bulldozer Group out of Dubai, who's in Dubai, and Monaco, and opening up in London. One of the largest hospitality users in the Middle East is going to be opening up at our Maria property. So I think it's very important to create synergies within brands, because most people won't want to come for a one-off and want to come for saying, oh my God, South Point, South of Fifth has become this new international hospitality row of people, and I think that changes the map for how hospitality comes about.
Yeah, you've invested a lot in South of Fifth. Are there any other areas with major wealth, you know, that you're targeting?
Yeah, I mean, for good or for bad, I think I've bought myself out of a job for ground floor retail. Brickell's always great, but I mean, the market's on fire. Miami as a whole is on fire, so it's very, very tough to find opportunities. Hence why I said I hope rates go up so people start to sell or people start to get desperate. But look, I'll find a deal anywhere there's opportunity, but it's usually Miami-Dade County where you can get those exponential sales, because you have the tourist crowd. You have crowds that will spend extra money, that will fly in from overseas. From Dubai or London or South America, that once upon a time you wouldn't really get that. So I think I'd buy anything in Miami-Dade County for the most part that would get that extra rent and that extra way to make money, but it's tough to find deals nowadays.
Are you offering like tenant improvement? Like, are you sweetening the deal at all for some of these tenants, or?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, every deal is deal dependent, right? If a tenant's saying, hey, I'm going to spend $15 million in a build out, you're almost a partner in investing money with them so they can spend that extra kind of money, because ultimately it's a win-win, right? If you spend the extra TI, you say, hey, I want some percentage right off the top so I can try to make my money back. But, you know, ultimately the goal is to try to create a neighborhood, or at least for me, the inner child in me like to say, I wanted to create a monopoly board. And when you create a monopoly board on South of Fifth, I own, you know, 3 of the biggest properties for hospitality there, that I can kind of control rents and control the market and control the people. And I look at it as a partnership for 15 years instead of 10 years, because most people that invest in those markets or in the hospitality business, they say, well, the business may fail in 12 months, 24 months. I just want to give them money, sell the property, move on. I'm trying to create a hospitality destination that is here to last, not just to make a quick buck and move on. And I think with the brands that we brought in today, it's a long-lasting effect that will change the Miami landscape of hospitality.
What about you, Marc? Are you staying in Park West?
Well, I've been selling land in Park West. I did my first property there in March of 2003. I only stay in Park West. I don't do business anywhere else. I consider myself a Park West expert. I will tell you the Park West has 300,000 square feet of retail opening up within the next year. Some of the tenants are going to shock everybody in the room, because everybody in the room, nobody understands what's going on in Park West. But what's going on in Park West is you have a $2 billion highway being built, leading all the traffic right down onto the properties. We happen to own, with me and Michael and Romy Shatterow, we own like 4 of the major corners there, about 15 acres. Then you have Miami World Center, which I co-founded with Art Falcone in 2003. And there's to be 300,000 square feet of amazing tenants. Some have been announced, some are coming. Crazy tenants are about to be announced. and that's going to be open of shops, restaurants, amazing restaurants. We're going to have amazing restaurants in our towers. One of them I could even say is Mila's going to be one of our tenants. Not even our tenant, we're partnering with them to open up a spectacular restaurant. On the top of 11, right now we're under construction on a $5+ million build out to be a spectacular restaurant. We partnered with the restaurant group out of Fort Lauderdale, and we're going to have a restaurant that is going to be as good as any restaurant in the city. To be able to go there, eat a great meal, and go right down into the club. We have almost every major restaurateur in the country wants to be in our towers, and a couple of years away, so we're just picking and choosing. So if you take what's going on in Miami World Center right now with the 300,000 square feet it's about to open up, and you take what we're doing and put them together, that area is going to have so many great restaurants and so much entertainment and so much hospitality. Citizen M just opened up. There's other hotels coming. Steve Witkoff is opening up. He's going to open up a hotel on his site. So if you take the train station, the major train station, $3 billion, the $2 billion highway, you got the Performing Arts Center, which is about $600 million. Got the Museum of Art and Science, which is about $700 million. Got the FTX, whatever you want to call it, arena, maybe the 11 arena,
whatever
any day now.
Right?
And you got the parks. There's going to be a 38-acre park underneath the bridge. All the infrastructure and all what's going on there in Egress and Ingress is really going to win the day. That's why I concentrate right there, because I know the areas. Like he alludes to it, the permitting and everything else going on. I believe if you just stay in your lane, you'll be a lot better off.
Have you seen rental rates fall at all?
I haven't.
No, rental rates have not fallen. I don't see home prices falling. Miami will be the last man standing, I can tell you that. That I can promise you. That I promise everywhere this year. You take that to the bank.
I think the biggest thing with Miami is you just don't have a lot of area. I mean, me being from LA, you have so many different submarkets that are so far apart, 30, 45 minutes, an hour away, and it makes it tough. Once upon a time, you used to be able to get from South to 5th to Brickell in 10 minutes, 12 minutes. And you only have so many islands, so many ground floor retails, only so many buildings. So I think that supply and demand issue in itself in a specific submarket makes it very difficult for the recession to come or for things to affect. So I think, like you said, South Florida is here to stay, and it's going to kick everyone else's ass before it goes down. I said before, if it goes down, everyone else is going to go down first before it goes down.
Any lessons from the last crash that we should?
A lot of lessons. Yes, a lot of lessons. Leverage will kill you. That's all I can tell you. Leverage will kill you, and don't be leveraged. That's the big lesson of the day. Don't be leveraged.
Don't be leveraged. Okay. I would like to open it up to the audience. Does anyone have any questions?
Thanks. Robert, what are you going to do with 1000 Museum?
You should ask the gentleman that I bought it from right behind you. No, in all seriousness, for what I bought 1000 Museum was exactly what, the developer who built an amazing freaking building and did a great job, building it, and they're building all the buildings around. 11 high-rises, Waldorf, and everything that comes about. It takes time for a restaurateur to believe in that area. So we bought it preemptively for the excitement of what's going to happen in Miami World Center and everything. So I jumped the gun, per se, on that project. But the game plan for that restaurant is to make it an international hotspot that people from all over the world appreciate the fact of what my good friend Birdman had created in that building, and bringing a brand that coincides with that, but also becomes a flagship for that downtown area. Because for good or for bad, a lot of people still only think of great markets of being in Brickell or south of 5th or Miami Beach, and now it's my job to at least do my part in creating that ground floor hospitality into a game changer and benefiting off of everything he's building in Miami World Center and everybody else. So international restaurateur that is a game changer that you've really never seen before, I hope.
This question is for Marc. You mentioned not anything about gambling, the speaker did, but from the renditions of 11, it sure looks like sports gambling and horse racing. I mean, there's a rendition with a TV and about 100 seats, and looks like Vegas to me. So I'm kind of curious if gambling's going to be a part of it sometime soon.
Well, we were trying to create a vibe as if you're in a casino you won't have major gambling. I've been trying to get gambling down here since '03, it's a long story, but Charlie Chris ruined it for all of us. He gave away the gambling to the Seminoles. It's a long story. I could do a whole 2-day dissertation on it. But yeah, we do hope by the time we open up, there was initiative to put you could do betting in certain places, get licenses. The Hard Rock will control that. You can license it out. It was going through, and then the Supreme Court knocked it down. By then, hopefully, it straightened itself out. So we're confident that if you're able to at that time, we could create a great sports area where people could bet on games and so on and so forth. Now, listen, these days you can put up monitors so people could go online and bet with Better or DraftKings or FanDuel. So we'll do something. That's our plan B. But there will be an environment where you can gamble. That is part of the plan.
Hi, Robert.
Hi.
Hi, Marc. So you do buy when areas are down. Well, when will you be in West Grove?
Is that for me or for him?
For both of you.
West Grove, I don't even know where that is.
West Coconut Grove.
Never.
Why?
You try to convince tourists to go to West Coconut Grove, I'll give you $1 million.
Well, you have them in the Grove.
You have them in the Grove, yes, but the problem is you can't, from what I understand, the Grove, there's certain limitations on music, certain limitation of hours that you can be open till, certain limitations on all that stuff.
Right, I understand it's not Miami Beach, but
That's why
the Grove is already exploding and it has a nice, chic mix of demographics, such as South Point.
I agree with you. The problem with that area, at least for my sake, is you have that tourist crowd that's willing to come and drop $4,000 or $5,000 on bottle service or the $1,000 steak or all that stuff. They're not driving 45 minutes from one of the hotel beach and the hotels on the beach to Coconut Grove. You have way too many major hospitality groups between South Beach to Coconut Grove to go there. Will I go to one of the nice breakfast spots or one of the nice restaurants that are there? Do I think it's a beautiful area? Yes, absolutely. But will you get the restaurant tours that can do $20 million plus in sales? I personally don't believe so.
I love everything about Miami. I love every area in Miami. But like I stated, I just stayed right in Park West. The Park West is literally ground zero because you have Brickell all the way over, all the way down to the south. Then you have the Midtown. Then you have Park West, which is dead center from Wynwood, from the Midtown, which is just north of there. And then you have, of course, have the Design District. So I'm right where I want to be. I've been 20 years there, 24 years there. And after these towers are built and a few other things we have planned, I'm tired. But I do love your area. It's fantastic. And I consider every area and everybody that goes out in hospitality fantastic because they're all farm systems and breeding grounds for 11. So I appreciate everything, all surroundings, and I'm a big fan of everything. And I think that every area is vibrant, and I think every area is an opportunity. And if I was a bit younger, I would definitely be exploring all different areas.
I have a question. So with the market fluctuating so much and everybody, being afraid of what's going to happen next, what's a thought or, to pivot, like an advice, in order to be prepared for the unknown of what's happening?
Well, I would say if you're in this area, meaning the Miami area, just be thankful that you're in this area. Be very thankful, because other areas don't stand a chance. But everybody in this room does stand a chance, because Miami, and I'll state it again, will be the last man standing, and I don't think it's going anywhere. I think you should just keep your head down, keep faith in what you're doing, and keep doing it, because if you stick with Miami, you're not going to go wrong. And again, I'll say it again, just don't leverage yourself. Whatever you do, don't get yourself in a bind at these times. And if you can, take advantage of great opportunities in Miami, and if you have the ability to put together syndications or raise some money, if you want to be the entrepreneur of the group, there'll be great opportunities for you to do that. And if you sell it properly, I think you'll succeed very well.
I think my answer to that is depending upon what your situation is, whether you're a general partner on a property, whether you have variable debt, whatever the situation you have individually is. Let's say, for example, you raise money from people. Set their expectations that a potential recession is coming. If you have variable debt, try to lock your debt into a fixed mortgage so you're not worried about the fluctuations of interest. Whatever your pain points are, figure out what those are in advance, prepare for the worst, hope for the best, but try to solve those in advance before they get to the point where they can actually hurt you.
First, thank you guys both for your time. My question's to Robert. As a young professional, and you're pretty young yourself, I think it's very impressive.
Thank you for that.
How
I like
can
to be young.
I educate myself? What should I be focusing on to succeed in this industry? How did you learn so much in such a little time?
It's a great question, a question I'm asked all the time. The first answer to that is work for somebody. Work for somebody that's knowledgeable. Work for somebody that can teach you all the mistakes that they have made and learn from that so you don't make those mistakes. I think for me, getting as much knowledge and experience when I started from property management was the most important thing because I learned all the mistakes the developers made and tried to learn from that so I didn't make them. So for me, whether you think it's beneath you or it's above you or whatever it is, work for somebody that's very knowledgeable, work for somebody that can teach you things, and then get the comfort to want to go out on your own because you don't know what you don't know. And it's something as simple as when you buy a building that has contamination or has issues with the infrastructure, if you don't know those things, those can cost you millions of dollars in costs and bankrupt you. So the first thing I would recommend is obtain as much knowledge as possible, whether that's working for somebody on an internship or working for somebody for minimum wage. Learn what it is, what industry you want to get the knowledge, and then act accordingly from there.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you all for joining us. We have our next generation panel coming up next.